Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in. A couple days ago I posted a video on the 5 things that I hate about my Harley-Davidson Heritage 114. Now what I want to do is the top 5 things that I absolutely love about this Heritage. And of course I love this motorcycle. I've been riding it for about a year now. I've got 7,500 miles on it, and it's been a joy. I mean, I've really enjoyed everything about this bike. Sure, there's things that I don't really love, and you know, a couple of those, to point out the obvious, is the stupid decorative cap that I mentioned, and then the oil cooler not having any sort of fan to it. They put a radiator on the bike. Why would you not put a fan on it? It's just, to me, it's a half-ass kind of thing. But I don't want to get back onto the negative things. I want to get into the things that I love about this bike, and there are plenty of them. Number 5 is just the design and the nostalgia of this bike. It's really what drew me into wanting to buy a motorcycle to begin with. I mean, this was the first bike that I saw that I thought, wow, I really want to buy a bike. So, you know, that's you know, well done to Harley. The things that I like about the design the most, I mean, it's just, it has a really good nostalgic feel to it, which is something I really love. You know, the Americana of Harley-Davidson, the history of Harley-Davidson. You know, it's a rich heritage. I mean, hence the name Heritage. But you know, they did a really good job of throwing the blacked out elements, you know, a little bit of chrome mixed into the array, and I just think they did a really good job of mixing old and new, and that is not always an easy thing to do. So what really had me sold when I saw this bike, and I know that the paint is can be a love-hate thing with the denim paint job, but in my opinion, the Heritage with that really old school look and feel to it, again, just the bike drew me in. And that's what a lot of motorcycles are all about, is evoking an emotion to get you to really make a purchase. And you know, the Heritage did that for me. So, you know, I just realized I gotta stop and go to get some gas, and I was gonna go to Costco, and it's freaking 4 o'clock on a Friday. Guarantee you there is going to be a million cars there. Let's jump cut to my misery. What's this dummy doing? What are you backing up for, you dummy? That served no purpose. So I will save you guys the nightmare of having to wait for gas with me, and I will John Maxwell jump cut my way through this. Alright, so we did it. Alright, so now that gas is out of the way, number 4, I forgot I was going backwards here, is the power to weight on this bike is absolutely awesome. This 114 is a monster. I mean, it's a huge motor. I mean, this bike weighs 723 pounds in running order, which a lot of people say it's a heavy bike, which, yeah, I mean, it's not a sport bike. It's not meant to rip around track days. It's meant to, you know, run around town and get up on the highway and cruise, but it's not, you know, a 900-pound touring bike. So you have this crazy amount of power that is accessible, and it's just, it's great. You know, getting this 114 on a smaller bike, like a Heritage or in the Softails outside of the touring platform, I mean, you're shaving at some bikes almost 200 pounds. So people, again, getting into this 723 pounds, people think like, wow, that's a really, really heavy bike. And I gotta tell you guys, you know, getting to a full stop here, you know, rocking this bike back and forth, I've actually dropped this bike at the Harley dealership, which was super embarrassing, and I was filming at the time. Oh shit. And I picked it right up, standing over top of it, really with ease. It was surprising actually how easy it was to pick up. Now my form was totally wrong, and I should have done it a little bit more calculated, but I was embarrassed, so I just tried to snatch it up as fast as I could, and it was super easy. Now number 3 is the suspension on this bike. Around town, I actually think that this Heritage is far more comfortable than any of the touring bikes that I test rode, and that would be the Road King, the Street Glide, and a Street Glide Special. This bike feels more composed over bumps than the touring bikes did. Let me navigate through hell traffic here real quick. And this is why I bought a motorcycle, so I could ride HOV lane the whole way home. So the Shoei suspension on these bikes, which they have a single shock mounted underneath the seat, which is adjustable, it's really, really good. I mean, I've yet to bottom this bike out one time, not one time. I mean, I've hit some pretty good bumps and some potholes and stuff like that, and the suspension just eats it right up. And the front forks also have that Shoei dual bending valve suspension on the front. And again, there's not been a single bump or anything that I've hit that made me think that this suspension was undersized for the task. So that is going to get into number two, which number two is the rider comfort and utility of this bike. So, you know, sure, the suspension plays into the comfort part of that, but I'm not just talking about suspension. I'm just talking about like the rider triangle. Here I am, I'm 6'1", 6'2", somewhere in between there. And you know, I'm a 220-pound guy. I'm not a small guy. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, you got to be on a Road King, dude." Still, I say it's not necessarily true. This bike is incredibly comfortable for me. I've ridden it one day. I took it out on a 6-hour ride just for the hell of it. It's the most that I've ever done on this bike. And by the time I got home, I was fine. The you know, the footboards are super comfortable. It's just it's just a very good position. The bars, the stock bars, I have no desire to change them at all. Again, that's all subjective to the rider, but for me, they just put my arms in a really comfortable spot. They could maybe be like an inch taller, but not worth the expense to me to do it. The windscreen does a good job of keeping the majority of wind off of me. I was riding this bike when it was down in the low 30s during the winter time. It just kind of bundled up a little bit more, but for the most part, the windscreen kept me fine. Little head buffeting here and there, but nothing that I get upset about. In the utility part of it, part of what the utility is like, it's got, you know, the really great get up and go, which is really stupid to do in traffic, but it's got really good power. But then it also has saddlebags. It's got you know, all the creature comforts that I need. I can strap my bag for work on the back of it, which has a hard hat and you know, iPad and all kinds of other stuff. So I've taken this bike to job sites where I'm able to carry everything that I need, you know, on this bike. And it's not too much to handle to do it. Again, the utility is great, and then it's got the sportiness that, you know, when you want to really get on this thing, it's there. It's got plenty of power for you. Now, number one, which is the most important thing to me, which, you know, if you're a seasoned rider, this is going to be less of an important aspect, but to me this was huge, was the confidence-inspiring aspect of this bike. I'm a new rider. The 7,500 miles I have on this bike is my experience on the road for a motorcycle. I have 7,500 miles of experience. And man, I'll tell you what, a lot of the comments I got on YouTube are people that are like, dude, that's way too much bike for you. You should have went with something smaller. And oh my, that power has got to be unmanageable. And like, I'm telling you guys, after a year of riding this bike, I don't get it. Man, I'll tell you what, I got on this bike as a brand new rider. Man, nothing crazy. Now, the couple times that I've needed this bike to save my bacon, it's been there for me, and I didn't have any feeling of like not being able to get out of danger. I had a situation where a dude veered into me because he was on his cell phone not paying attention, you know, just kind of changed lanes, and I was able to just real quick just swerve out of the way. This bike is just incredibly snappy and responsive to evasive maneuvering. So again, no feeling like, oh my god, that was a lot of 700 pounds that I had to move around to get out of trouble. Again, just a really good bike to handle. I had a guy pull out in front of me turning left on red, which is like the most deadly thing that I see with motorcycles, especially here in Arizona. It's like every week I feel like I see somebody who's had a car pull out in front of them, which is part of why I don't like riding in the city streets. I'd prefer to be up on the highway, but you see a lot of it, and I had it happen to me. You know, I had to get on the brakes, ABS, the whole nine, and you know, the bike stopped. So I was able to get out of that. Well, actually it didn't stop, but I was able to slow down enough to the point where, you know, the car slowed down, and I was able to kind of ride around him, and I felt fine. Other than the fact that it scared the crap out of me, and I was able to control it, and everything felt fine. So again, as a new rider, I have been really blown away with how easy this bike has been to handle, and part of that is that there's a ton of bike left for me to grow into. So it's not like I'm stuck with some Street 500 that a year into it I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm you know, here I'm battling the wind, and you know, this bike's just getting kind of pushed all over the place, and I don't have enough throttle, and you know, just any of those concerns are gone. I don't really have to worry about that stuff. So this has been a awesome bike as a beginner rider. Now, if you don't have the confidence and you think it might be too much bike, I'm not going to like try to you know, bully anybody into like, oh yeah, you can handle it, you can do it, like, oh, don't be a wuss. Like I would never in a million years do that. So get what you're comfortable on. I'm just telling you that I have been totally fine and 100% comfortable and confident on this motorcycle since day one. So that's my list of the top 5 things that I love about this bike. And you know, I just want to reiterate that yes, it's a 723-pound bike. Yes, you know, that's heavy. So when people say, oh, I can't believe you're on that bike for your first motorcycle, I think when they see 1800 cc's, that people are equating that with a 1,000-pound motorcycle. I think that's what's happening. So the cc's of the motor almost really doesn't even matter. And you know, I mean, I kind of say that, but obviously getting on like a Hayabusa probably isn't the smartest first bike in the world, but it's all controllable through the clutch and how much throttle you give it. So the cc's of the motor really, to me, isn't like the thing to look out for. It's how does the bike feel when you're riding it. You know, again, this is not a 900 or 1,000-pound motorcycle. It's 723 very good pounds of weight to this bike. You know, so really my ultimate love for this Heritage in particular comes down to the fact that it really is the do-all motorcycle. The power to weight ratio in this is just going to be better than a touring bike, hands down. You look at a 114 on a touring bike and a 114 on a Softail, it's going to be faster and more fun ultimately on a Softail. With that being said, you still have the bags, and you can still throw stuff on this thing and go on like kind of like a mini touring type bike. I mean, again, it's not going to be as utilitarian as a full-on touring bike when it comes to throwing a ton of stuff on it. But for me, I'm back and forth to work. That's 99% of my riding. I need enough that I can carry some tools on the bike. You know, I have a hat that I carry in there in case I get broken down on the side of the road, and it's 115. I can try to get the sun off me a little bit. And then on my right hand side here, you have all of my GoPros, filming equipment. I carry like hair gel, which people laugh at me about, but I don't really understand that. If you have a job and you need to look half-ass respectable, part of that is you're gonna carry hair gel. So that's important to me. Whether you like that or not, or you think that's a yuppie thing to say, I really don't give a shit. So, and then on top of that, you know, I can throw a backpack on the back of it for things like if I really need to start getting into carrying more stuff like my hard hat and stuff like that that just won't fit in the saddlebags. I have the ability to do that stuff as well. An extra water bottle or, you know, something like that. Or I can get even crazier and start throwing like the Nelson rig bag that I have that I did a review on. I'll link that up above too. You know, I can start throwing those bags on here and getting like crazy amounts of storage for longer trips, or if I need something to be like rainproof or something like that. So as much as there are things that I really wish Harley didn't do with this motorcycle, I still think, in my opinion, I would argue that it's one of the best motorcycles in their lineup because of its utility, and I would challenge anybody to argue that point with me because, you know, again, I think this bike is really well suited for what most people who are going to be riding on a daily basis would need. I don't know how you could argue that this bike is not, again, one of the best in Harley's lineup at this point in time. So, guys, again, I appreciate you tuning in. This might have been a little bit longer-winded than I would have liked it to been, but ultimately, guys, I really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for sticking with me. You know, I really appreciate it. And you know, I'll have some videos coming up here again in the near future. I'm still in the middle of a move, so things have been a little bit hectic, but I'll still keep trying to put the content out. So again, guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time.